Hey, how you folks doing today? Matthew Dodson here from Maple City Firearms. So I'm going to do a quick video here really on just showing you guys how to load your firearm, more specifically a semi-automatic handgun. The reason I'm doing this class obviously isn't for a lot of you guys who've been around firearms and a little more experienced with them. This is for people who are new to firearms or maybe have never even shot a handgun. Maybe even people, what I find a lot during my classes is a lot of the time, and I don't want to just single out women, but a lot of the time it is women who maybe don't have a lot of firearms experience but maybe have shot a little bit, but when they go to the range they go with their boyfriend or their husband and they end up loading up all the magazines for them and they never really learn how to do it themselves until they come to one of our classes. So this is going to be for people who are in that situation, or like I said, people who are just new to guns altogether. So let's get right into it. The gun that you see right here on the table is a Glock 19 Generation 3. And the first thing that you want to do when you're practicing this, or whether you're out on the range about to load up the gun, before you transport the gun, before you clean the gun especially, before you really do anything, is you want to know whether your gun's loaded. Now you should already know that if it is your gun, but for the sake of the argument, let's just say you don't know. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how you do that. Now you notice that when I pick up the firearm, I keep my finger off the trigger and up here on the slide or the frame, okay? I don't have my finger on the trigger, and I don't want my finger right here on the trigger guard. That's what this section right here is. The reason I don't want my finger on the trigger guard is because it could very easily slip onto the trigger. Fingers are different sizes, trigger guards are different sizes, things of that nature, so make sure you have your finger straight and off the trigger right up here. Then I'm going to go ahead and check to see if there's a magazine in there. There is not. Both the magazines are right here, but I can go ahead and notice by sticking my fingers right in there and just looking at it, obviously, that there is no magazine in the mag well. And then I'm just going to go ahead and pull back on the slide. The slide is this top section of the firearm. Frame is going to be below that. We're not going to get into all the parts of the firearm, just so you guys know that. And I am visually inspecting. You can even put your finger in there and see if there's a round in there. But once again, I don't know if you can see that, but there is no round in the chamber. So we go ahead and take care of that now. Here we have the magazines, okay? Now these magazines are Glock magazines. They're double stacked magazines. Double stack simply means that when the rounds are in the gun, or I'm sorry, when the rounds are in the magazine, that they're staggered, stacked basically side by side, essentially, as opposed to a single stack like the one I'll bring in right here. This is for an M&P shield. This one will just have one round right on top of another. They're still a little bit staggered in that, but just so you understand what they mean when they say single stack versus double stack. A double stack is generally going to be a little wider as well, but you're also going to get more rounds in that magazine. So we also have here some ammunition. This is live ammunition, and while generally I would not have live ammunition in a demonstration like this while we're working with other guns, but I wanted to go ahead and show you guys what a live round looks like. This is a cartridge, a 9mm cartridge. It is not a bullet. The bullet is inside of the cartridge. That is that portion at the top there. You can see that. And then you have the brass casing. And then at the bottom of your cartridge, you're going to see that silver round portion. That is your primer. Okay? Now, I don't know if you could see that, but it does say 9mm Luger there at the bottom. Okay? Now, if we go ahead and actually let me bring this back out, I also have some of these A-Zoom snap caps. Now, these are basically just aluminum fake rounds. Nothing. They don't have a projectile that fires out, but they are made to virtually the exact same specifications as this 9mm round that you see right here. This is the A-Zoom, the red one. It is not real. It makes no noise. All you hear is the firing pin striking the plastic insert that's on the rear. Okay, I recommend these to anyone who owns a firearm. Really, they're great for dry fire practices, practicing loading the gun. When you get more advanced, you can use them to practice different malfunctions, things like that. Excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and get this ammunition off the table because you really shouldn't have ammunition anywhere near you while you're working with firearms, unless of course you're loading up your gun with ammunition to shoot it. Okay, that's federal ammunition, 9mm Luger, and the reason I'm showing this to you is I'm not going to get into a whole thing about cartridge nomenclature. However, just keep in mind that that 9mm in particular, for instance, is going to go by a variety of different names. Okay, here it calls it 9mm Luger. Sometimes it will say 9mm or 9mm Parabellum and 9mm or 9mm Para. So there's a lot of different names out there. If you're confused about this, my best suggestion for you is to do a little research on your own, as well as if you're going out to purchase ammunition, you can always ask the person behind the counter wherever you're getting ammunition. If they cannot help you, then get your ammunition somewhere else. So once again, I'm going to go set that to the side, and we're going to get right into this. First step, and frankly this is the most complex step for some people, it takes some getting used to, that's simply loading the magazine. Okay, now the magazine is made of a few different parts. I'm not going to take this one apart for you, but just understand that there's a few different parts to the magazine. Inside, this is the magazine body, okay? This is just the main part of the magazine. And inside that is going to be a spring, okay? On top of the spring is going to be the follower. This is the plastic portion you can see protruding out the top right here, okay? Down here is going to be your base pad, and below that is going to be the retainer. You can't see that, that's enclosed in the magazine. Now this isn't terribly important for you to understand right now, just understand that there are different parts to this magazine, and understanding that will help you not only understand the process that we're about to go through, but also if you ever need to clean your magazines or replace a part in them, just understand that most modern magazines you can take apart, and they're not always that easy, but replacing a magazine part can definitely help with any issues you might be having with malfunctions. A lot of time people think there's something wrong with their firearm, but more times than not I find it's actually a magazine malfunction. So enough about that, let's just get right into it. Now as you can see here, and I showed you as a comparison with these snap caps versus the actual round, this front part here would be the side where the bullet is, and the rear here is where the primer is, okay? This is the business end of this round, alright? So that is facing forward. You want to go ahead and back the round up into the magazine, alright? Now let me explain to you what I'm doing here. I mentioned before that this follower is resting on top of a spring, okay? This thing is spring loaded. So what you need to do is press down and then slide back, alright? And as you notice here, these two lips on the side, that is what's actually holding the round in, alright? So you actually have to press down and slide back on the round, okay, facing forward. Now, can you put these in backwards? You can put them in backwards. Generally, it will not load in the gun, so don't be afraid that you're going... A lot of people are concerned that if they load the round into the gun backwards, that it will actually end up shooting them. And that isn't a real serious concern, so don't worry about that. It will not load into your gun, or at very least certainly should not. Now, a good way you can tell if you're putting it, whether you're putting it in backwards or not, always remember that you're backing the round in first of all, okay? So you want to look for where that primer is and then push it back that way. I apologize, there's a fly in here. So, he is relentless. So, one way you can tell what the front portion of the magazine is actually by setting it down, and it will lean forward. You notice that? And it does that because it's going with the curvature of the gun. You see that? So you put the magazine in there, and you notice that it's leaning forward, okay? So, take your round, facing forward, and then back it in. That's simple. Now that's for your first round. Every subsequent round, the easiest way is going to actually be to handle the magazine like this, basically as if you were holding a gun facing forward, and then press down with your thumb on that first round, and then press down. Let me get this a little closer for you. Press down and slide back in with the next round. I'll show you that again. Press down with your thumb and then press down with the rear of your next round onto the front of your the round before it, and then slide it backwards. There we go. That was exhilarating. So I'm going to go ahead and show it with this other magazine again. Once again, you want to take the round, slide it backwards. There. Now, can you do this with live ammunition? Yes, I don't personally recommend it, but if you are at home and you do have live ammunition and you want to go ahead and try this, once again, I do not recommend it, but you go ahead and do what you're going to do. I would recommend that you do not load it into your firearm, especially if you're new to firearms and you're not ready to go out and shoot it. That is not something I would recommend doing. For this exercise, because we are using snap caps, because we're not using live rounds, I'm also going to show you how to then load the gun. Okay, so you want to take the magazine, and as I alluded to before, you want to figure out which way is forward. Okay, now with some magazines, they'll have an indications of how many rounds you have in the gun, and those will almost always be on the back or sometimes on the side of the gun. However, not all magazines have that, so we're not going to go by that. Basically, remember what I said before, it's going to go with the curvature of the gun, okay? So if you're setting it down, it's going to lean forward that direction, just like the gun. See that? So, go ahead, put the magazine in the gun, into the mag well, okay? And you're usually going to want to hear a click out of it, okay? That's going to indicate that it's actually locked in there, and it's not going to come out until you push the mag release, and I'll show you what the mag release is here in a moment. Then, keeping your finger still off the trigger and always keeping the gun pointed in a safe direction, go overhand on the slide, pull back, and then just let it go, okay? Now, let me show you what's happened here. Taking the magazine out, there's still a couple rounds in there, but I still have a round in the chamber. Keep that in mind. Just because you take the magazine out does not mean there isn't a round in the chamber. There absolutely is, and you need to be aware of that, okay? So to take that round out, I would take the magazine out regardless of whether it's empty or not, set it off to the side, and then I'm going to take the slide once again, reaching over, and that round fell out and it went onto the floor, okay? Now, just because you did that does not mean that you want to assume the gun is empty, all right? Then you want to take take the slide back, lock it to the rear, and then once again, check the gun to make sure it's unloaded, okay? Now, a couple other things I want to show you guys here, and that is, I don't know, I believe people call these speed loaders generally, and so there's a few different types out there, but I'm just going to show you how this one in particular works. It's from a company called Upalula, I believe is how you pronounce it, I'm not sure. And this can be very helpful, especially if you have a magazine that is particularly stiff. Remember, we're pressing down on a spring here. And so with this particular one, what you actually do is, let me see if I can illustrate this. You squeeze it in and you press down. That presses down on that other round, and then you go ahead and just slide the other one right in there, okay? And then you open it up, raise it, press down, and put another round in there. This can really aid if maybe you're having issues with your magazines, or maybe your hands are a little weak and you're having trouble putting the rounds in there. I would definitely suggest getting one of these. Or if you've been, you're taking a class or something where you're shooting 1,200 rounds a day or something like that, and your fingers are just really sore, excuse me, your fingers are sore and you just want something to help you out, these kind of tools can really be helpful. So I know this video was a little bit in more detail than maybe some of you feel is necessary, but I think it's hopefully going to be real helpful for some of you who are new to firearms and really needed some explanation on how this works. And if you guys have any other questions, please go ahead and leave them in the comments section, or you can contact us on our website or email, Facebook, a lot of things, and I'll put the links to all that below. As always, guys, stay armed, stay safe. Have a great day.